Jerome Jerome, best known as the author of Three Men in a Boat, one of the great comic masterpieces of the English language, was born in Staffordshire. His first book, On the Stage and Off, was published in 1855, and this was followed by numerous plays, books, and magazine articles. He was a prolific writer whose work has been translated into many languages. But as Jerome himself said, it is the author of the Three Men in a Boat that the public persists in remembering me. Good evening, Master Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We went into the parlor and sat down. There was an old fellow there, smoking a long clay pipe, and we naturally began chatting. He told us that it had been a fine day, and we told him that it had been a fine day yesterday, and then we all told him that it would be a fine day tomorrow. George said the crops are to be coming up nicely. After that, it came out somehow or other that we were strangers in the neighborhood, and that we were going away the next morning. Then a pause ensued in the conversation, during which our eyes wandered on the road. They finally rested upon a dusty old glass case, fixed very high above the chimney place, and containing a trout. It rather fascinated me. That trout was such a monstrous trout. Basically, a monstrous fish. In fact, at first glance, I thought it was a god. Ah, said the old gentleman, following the direction of my gaze. Fine fellow, that ain't he? Quite uncommon, unknown. And George asked the old man, how much does he weigh? 18 pounds and 6 ounces, said our friend, rising and taking down his coat. Yes, he continued, it was 16 years ago, come the 3rd of next month, that I landed him. I caught him just below the bridge with a minnow. They told me you were in the river, and I said I'd have him. And so I did. You don't see many fishes that size about here now. I'm thinking. Good night, gentlemen, good night. And out he went and left us alone. He could not take our eyes off the fish after that. It really was a remarkably fine fish. We were still looking at it when the local carrier, who had just stopped in at the inn, came to the door of the room with a pot of beer in his hand, and he also looked at the fish. Good-sized trout, that, said George, turning round to him. Ah, you may well say that, sir, replied the man. And then, after a pull at his beer, he added, maybe you wasn't here, sir, when the fish was caught. No, we told him. We were strangers in the neighborhood. Ah, said the carrier. Then of course, how should you? It was nearly 5 years ago that I caught the trout. Oh, was it you who caught it then? Said I. Yes, sir, replied the genial old fellow. I caught him just below the log. Leastways, what was the log then? One Friday afternoon. And the remarkable thing about it is that I caught him with a fly. I'd gone out pike fishing, bless you, never thinking of a trout. And when I saw the whooper on the end of my line, blessed if it didn't quite take me aback. Well, you see, he weighed 26 pounds. Good night, gentlemen, good night. 5 minutes afterwards, a third man came in and described how he had caught it. Early one morning, with Bleak, and then he left. And a stolid, solemn-looking, middle-aged individual came and sat down over by the window. None of us spoke for a while, but at length George turned to the newcomer and said, I beg your pardon. I hope you will forgive the liberty that we, perfect strangers in the neighborhood, are taking. But my friend here and myself would be so much obliged if you would tell us how you caught the trout up there. Why? Who told you I caught that trout? Was a surprised query. We said that nobody had told us so, but somehow or the other we felt instinctively that it was he who had done it. Well, it's almost a remarkable thing. Most remarkable, answered the stolid stranger, laughing. Because, matter of fact, you're quite right. I didn't catch it, but fancy your guessing it like that. Dear me, it's really a most remarkable thing. And then he went on and on and on and told us how it had taken him half an hour to land it and how he had broken his rod. He said he had weighed it carefully when he reached home, and it had turned the scale at 34 pounds. He went in his turn, and when he was gone, the landlord came in to us. We told him the various histories we had heard about his trout. And he was immensely amused, and we all laughed very hard. Fancy Jim Bates, and Joe Muggles, and Mr. Jones, and old Billy Wanderers, all telling that they caught it. Ha, ha, ha. Well, that is good, said the honest old fellow, laughing heartily. Yes, they are the sort to give it to me, to put up in my parlor, if they had got it. If they are, no whiz. And then he told us the real story of the fish. It seemed he had caught it himself years ago when he was quite young. But it wondered with George, how did he even get a chance to catch such a trout when he was a lad? Didn't he go to school? Didn't he have his childhood? No questions. Then he said, not by any art or skill, but by that unaccountable luck that appears to always wait upon a boy when he plays the back from school and goes out fishing on a sunny afternoon with a bit of string tied to the end of a tree. He then described how sunny it was. Beautiful sun, clear blue sky, clear crystal water, and so easily looking trout wandering about in the sea. He said that bringing home that trout had saved him from a whacking, and that even his schoolmaster had said it was worth the rule of three, and practice put together. He was called out of the room at this point, and George and I turned our gaze upon the fish. It really was most astonishing. The more we looked at it, the more we marveled at it. It excited George so much that he quickly climbed up on the back of a chair to get a better view of it. And then the chair slipped. And George clutched wildly at the trout case to save himself, and down it came with a crash. George in the chair on top of it. You haven't enjoyed the fish, have you? I cried in alarm, rushing up. I hope not, said George, rising cautiously and looking about. But he had. The trout lay shattered in 1,000 fragments. I say 1,000? They may only have been 900. I did not count them. We thought it strange and unaccountable that a stuffed trout should break up into little pieces like that. And so it would have been strange and unaccountable if it had been a stuffed trout. But it was not. That trout was